My name is Stephanie Vanderslice, Director of the Arkansas Writers MFA Workshop, and I teach Creative Writing 6300, the MFA experience. I founded this course because I wanted my students to have information that I was never given during the early 90s when I went through my MFA program. For example, I had an epiphany reading Ann Patchett's book about her friendship with Lucy Greeley, Truth and Beauty. It's a great book if you ever have a chance to read it. And she was talking about the two of them doing the Provincetown, I believe, residencies or writing colony, and that she and Greeley were talking, and they said, "This is it. This is one of those prestigious programs. Everything that's going to set us on our path. Everything is going to change after this." And I thought, it's interesting that they recognize that. Maybe they figured that out on their own, but we had never been taught anything like that. What were the residencies to go for, and that kind of thing. We got none of that information. Sometimes our professors talked about bread loaf. Sometimes, I don't think they ever talked about Suwanee. I didn't discover Suwanee, the importance of Suwanee as a program until years ago. And that's been true with a lot of other programs and residencies. I had reason to believe, even when we founded our program in 2012, that many students were still not receiving that information. And I determined that this would be different for our students. We would give them the information, whether, what they decided to do with that would be their own responsibility. This information included and starts with how to manage and succeed at an artistic/writing life. Okay, this isn't something people necessarily know, instinctively. How and why to submit to literary magazines, agents, and book publishers. How and why to submit to writers' residencies and retreats, and what were the ones to aim for that could bolster your career. How and why to submit to similar grant and funding opportunities. I believe these courses are critical as our student bodies change, as they hopefully become more diverse and less white upper middle class, as we see students with different needs who have taken on more debt, and as the publishing industry continues to change in ways we can't even predict. Few students are taught how to survive as writers. We want them to be able to sustain writing lives after they graduate. We developed this course at the very beginning of our MFA planning. It was written as a required course for the degree as we were forming the curriculum, and it was something that I pushed for. It's also complemented by a required course in editing and publishing that includes publishing our online journal, Arcana, as well as a course in creative writing pedagogy. These three courses are the foundation of our degree. Students take the MFA experience in either their first or third semester with the idea that the course will help them think about what they want to get from the degree and how to plan for it. We don't want students about to graduate panicking and saying, "Oh no, now what?" That said, the course is set up around choices with the understanding that not all students will want to go into teaching or into editing and publishing, and so forth. From the course materials offered, they are able to somewhat shape what they focus on. For example, I teach how to write a CV, how to write an arts-based resume, and how to write grants and residency applications. But the student chooses one of these to hand in to me for feedback and a grade. Hopefully, the one assignment that they want to pursue. So this course is almost 10 years old, And so it has been revised over the years. Over time, I've focused more on the smorgasbord of information that where students choose to focus on things that suit the course to their needs and the MFA to their needs. I try to emphasize that the MFA gives students a lot of freedom. They're not locked into choosing academia the way they might be with a PhD. We have students go into copywriting for advertising, into editing, into arts management, and into teaching. To that end, I spend only a week on teaching students about preparing for academia and job placement in higher education. I know not everyone is interested in that, and we will focus more on it in the creative writing pedagogy course. I talk a lot about the many different routes students have taken in finding success out of our program. But I'm very honest about the fact that they will need to find ways to support themselves during their writing lives. 2 books I use early on, Body of Work and How to Be an Artist Without Losing Your Mind, Your Shirt, or Your Creative Compass, are critical to this. They kind of set the foundation for the course. In that Body of Work by Pamela Slim, which I only discovered a few years ago, really talks about thinking of your life in a big picture and what you want to do with it, in the sense of what is, how are you making choices that will accumulate to a body of work that you have planned for throughout your life? And when are you at times making choices that won't contribute to that body of work? And how should you think about that? Should you avoid those choices? Should you view them as only temporary and so forth? It's a really, really good book that gets students thinking. Joanna Negler's How to Be an Artist Without Losing Your Mind, Your Shirt, or Your Creative Compass is also a great book for this, especially for living an artistic life. She talks a lot about money management, how to save and live in such a way that you don't feel pressured to do a lot of other work to sustain your lifestyle. I think it's really important to teach this to students, that they are making choices and that some choices that they make may, put a lot more pressure on them in terms of work. Her theory is really around doing things and doing work that can help you make time for your art, whatever that is. She also talks a lot about time management. And I think this is something also really important for students, especially as they go on in life. Time management needs change from when you're a graduate student, maybe trying to teach or do another job while you're in graduate school, or when you're maybe have a family or have another job 10 years from graduate school. But I think learning how to put your work first when you can and how to work your schedule around that is a really great thing to learn. And she really teaches that too. She teaches a lot of time management skills. I think those 2 books are really critical, and the students seem to like them a lot. So I'm glad I use them. And in fact, both of those books, I used Body of Work for the first time this semester, but both of those books, students said, gosh, I really wish I had read this. These are some older students that we have in their 40s. Wish I had read this 10 years ago, or when I first started out writing. And that's exactly what I want to hear, that these will help students as they're starting out. After we read and discuss those books, we move into more practical resources, books like Jane Friedman's The Business of Being a Writer and The Poet's and Writer's Complete Guide to Being a Writer. They both have a lot of similar information, but they treat it very differently. So I actually assigned both books, and they're read in tandem. I really recommend teaching these to students because they need to know this information about publishing, about books, book publishing, literary magazine publishing, jobs writers can do, they're really great resources. They're very thick books. And as one of my students said, this is going to be something I keep on my shelf and keep referring to, which is absolutely true. So most of our students graduate with a fairly clear idea of where they want to go after their degree, and they succeed. We're proud of them. And for that, I credit this course. I wanted them to have the information that I didn't necessarily have, not to fault my program as much as to fault the atmosphere at the time, which is that you didn't need to know this information, that it was somehow out in the mist and you would either figure it out or you wouldn't. I don't want to leave my students to have to do that themselves. I'm kind of trying to do the Ariadne's thread with this course, where I'm kind of giving them something to follow as they go through the maze of the writing life. And I want them to be able to use it for the rest of their lives. We're very committed to our students' success long-term. Thank you very much. I'm eager to hear your questions.